Okay, welcome everybody. We're on spring break here. I don't know if any of the rest of you are. So if you are, thanks for your time, and I'll try to get through this relatively quickly and smoothly because I know Mark is going to go after me. Me and Mark McKay both were together on this project, and we're using several protocols to study the environmental impacts around our school and our region. Lowrey School is a small K through 8 dependent school in northeastern Oklahoma. It's part of the Illinois River watershed, which flows through northwest Arkansas. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with northwest Arkansas, but Tyson, Simmons, and Hudson poultry industries are there. So there's a large poultry interest. My school is a rural school, not far from an urban area, and most of the kids in my school district are cattle farmers' kids or poultries. And also a competing interest are the float operators on the Illinois River. The Illinois River is a scenic river and it's protected by state law. However, that state law does not apply to the state of Arkansas, and there has been a lot of contention between the two states for over 30 years now, with Oklahoma trying to sue Arkansas for the phosphate levels from the poultry industry over in that part of the state. And the poultry companies are in turn suing the cattle men of cattle people here in northeastern Oklahoma who are suing the people that have septic systems, and it just goes on and on and on with no end in sight. Uh, 30 years ago, as a small boy on the Illinois River, you could float down it and see the bottom very easily with a nice uh, rock bottom, but now it's covered with a lot of moss and other things from the phosphate levels. And so we've been studying the riparian habitats and other things along the Illinois River, as well as some of the things local to my school, including some of the wells in the area which have become polluted because of the poultry and other pollutants in the area. And some of the things we were changing are how changes in climate patterns will have an effect on our plant communities, how they will affect the macroinvertebrate populations, and two test areas that I test on the Illinois River. In the background, you see a picture of my students on the Illinois River doing macroinvertebrate species counts, and how these changes will affect the timing and the blooming of the bud burst in the area, which this year has happened quite early. I'm sure as most of the United States has enjoyed a relatively mild winter, Oklahoma has had one of its top 10 mildest winters on record. Uh, some of the local indicators and protocols that we are studying is land cover change, tree height diameter, bud burst, green up and green down, and GPS protocols. Of course, some macroinvertebrates, which I have been studying for about 15 years now. And the GLOW program has given me the opportunity to actually use the data and report it and have the opportunity for other scientists and other schools to use it. So I've welcomed that. As I said, the poultry industry is really big in my community, and there's a lot of contention between those and the float operators who want the river to be scenic and pretty. So all the people from Tulsa, the surrounding communities will come in, actually from states all over this part of the United States, come in and float the river. And just because of the phosphate levels being so high, uh, because of the poultry industry, it's like having 10.5 million more people in the area, which is only an area that has a population of probably about 300,000 people in the Illinois River watershed. So that increase in the poultry litter has caused a lot of contention. Also, the floaters going down the river bring all their trash and other problems that they bring with it. So there's competing interest even in my school district, and I have to be careful on how I approach that because about anything I say is going to offend one group or another. So I try to just present the science and not to be too political about it. Here's some facts about the poultry pollution in this part of the state. Uh, it's primarily northwestern Arkansas. Most of it that's here in northeastern Oklahoma has begun to shut down because of all the regulations that the state of Oklahoma is now starting to put on the poultry industry. It's caused several of my families in my community to go out of the poultry industry and switch over to other industries like cattle and dairy farms, which create their own problems. Also, So there's no easy answer, and like I said, it's been in litigation for 30 years, and it hasn't gotten anywhere yet. Here's a picture of the Illinois River. It's very scenic, a very pretty waterway, and it's a large income source for probably about 30 operators up and down the river. It brings in $18 million in float fees and loans, plus the hotels, food, gas, camping, and the other miscellaneous revenues that are pumped to the local economy. It's quite a big deal. And for about 10 years consistently, I've gone down every spring, and we've done macroinvertebrate counts along the river. And this year I've picked another site because the site that I was doing this on for the last 10 years is no longer feasible. It used to be a gravel bar in the middle of it, and it had ripples where the river split in two and went around it. Now it's just a straight shot of the river. There's no gravel bar, because last year was one of the most severe weather events in the state of Oklahoma. We had an all-time record flood. We had all-time record snows. We had all-time record lows. We had all-time record rainfall in the spring, and then the third dry summer ever on record, and the hottest summer ever on record, not only for the state of Oklahoma, but for any state in the contiguous 48 states of the lower United States. So it's quite a severe year. So it was hard for us to debate how the phosphate levels were impacting the macroinvertebrate collection counts, as opposed to the major flooding and drought conditions that were happening along the river, because many parts of the river, the gravel bars were completely taken out and relocated to other parts of the river. So that definitely had an impact on the species collection and identification of the macroinvertebrates. And there my students are counting some. And here are the macroinvertebrate counts for the upper Illinois River, just east of our school. And this is the first time I've ever put them on Globe or actually kept the count anywhere online. And as I said, here's the Illinois River. If you look in the left corner at normal river stage, and there it is in April of 2011. It reached all-time records and flooded areas that I've known people that has families that have lived along the river over 100 years, and it's never even gotten close to what we experienced last year. Matter of fact, at the time that I'm speaking now, we just had 6 inches of rain in the last 30 hours, and we're having moderate flooding with more rain expected tomorrow. So it seems to me, as I spoke of this summer a little bit, the rain events and the record cold and the record drought and the record everything there's just seems to be more of that occurring, extremes from one end to the other. And I don't know if that's a direct impact of global warming or just an anomaly with the weather conditions that are happening in this part of the country. We also conduct atmospheric protocols every day. We do high and low temperature and rainfall and cloud cover, and we do tree height and canopy cover and those things once a year at Lowrey. Here's some pictures. I know Mark will talk about this more. He's a lot better versed in this than I am. I went to Google Earth and pulled some pictures down from 1995, 2003, and 2008. Here are pictures of the same area that I'm starting a new macroinvertebrate count on this spring, and I did a little bit on it this fall. I could not get an updated picture after the flood of last year, but if you look at the picture on 5/18/2008, that gravel bar is void of vegetation now. All the vegetation is completely gone. Half of that gravel bar is gone, and further down the river. So the river's been impacted mainly due to the atmospheric conditions and the flooding and the drought and all those things. But what I'd like to do is continue this and have someone follow after me after I retire years down the road and check at what the phosphate levels are, because Arkansas has sent their scientists over and they're disputing the phosphate levels that Oklahoma scientists are saying are in the river. And you can't get any really reliable data other than what you collect for yourself, because it just depends on who the scientists are working for. You know, some of them work for the state of Oklahoma, some of them are working for the poultry interest of Arkansas, and they need an independent commission to come in and sort this whole issue out so that we can get a better understanding of what the impacts are before they start shutting down all the poultry operations in not only in my school district, but this part of the state. So it's a large continuing problem, and I don't see any resolution in sight. But at Lowrey School, my students are really, really interested in it because it impacts them on a daily basis. They go home and they live with it. It's in the newspaper all the time. And some of my students are, their parents are float operators, and some of them are poultry operators. So they have a direct impact on it. And again, reiterating, Oklahoma 2011 all-time state record low, just 30 miles north of here, largest snowfall ever, largest wind gusts measured. Stephen was talking about the Mesonet, Kentucky. We got the Oklahoma Mesonet system here, which I've been a part of since 1994, and kind of how I got into weather. And we get real-time data from all the Mesonet stations across the state. Large hail diameter of 6 inches, third driest ever. And like I said, the average statewide temperature was the warmest ever on record, not for only Oklahoma, but for any state in the nation. So I'm interested in continuing the research and following this on. This is just kind of a starting point. And here's some of the resources and URL links that we use to collect the data. And I'll turn this over to Mark and let him kind of finish up. And if you have any questions, you can post them to me or Mark, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mark McKay. I'm out in California, and I'm doing the other half of this project. A lot of what Jeff described is a lot of the same things that we're seeing out in California. I'm in the San Joaquin Delta, which is the largest estuary on the West Coast, and we've had some really interesting experiences this year and had some really great plans that kind of went awry, but were fortunately saved, and I'm going to talk about that. Our interest is in climate change and how it affects riparian habitat. And originally, we were going to be working at this site. My school is part of the San Joaquin County Office of Education, and we're a charter school, and we have several different sites, and this one here is called Durham Ferry. And it happens to be on the second largest river in California, which is the San Joaquin, which is the river that you see down here at the bottom. The San Joaquin's fed by several snowmelt rivers like the Merced, the Tuolumne, the Cosumnes, etc. And this last year, we've had, because we had such a warm winter, we've had an awful lot of the water agencies releasing water from their dams, and the river has become somewhat dangerous, and I was not able to put kids into this river. I was going to be looking at macroinvertebrates and also some of the other protocols. This site is 20 miles from where I am at right at the moment, my school, but unfortunately, I lost access to it. This site used to be an environmental education site. It's been retasked to become an agricultural education site, so I was kind of kicked out of there, which was kind of a problem. But we had a really good resolution. We've been working with a group called the Center for Land-Based Learning for about 7 years now, and this is a group that sponsors us to do habitat restoration work. And specifically, a wine producer by the Vino farms, which is north of us, has been very good at supporting us, and we thought it would be a really good combination to have habitat restoration and globe protocol research, et cetera, happening at the same time. And that's exactly what we did. So the site that we have, which is in Campo, California, actually allowed us to have 2 places to work. This is an aerial of the particular site, and as you can see, it's an active working farm where we have Chardonnay, Pinot, Syrah, etc., actively growing. But this particular vineyard and this company is very, very interested in environmental concerns, sustainable growth. So they're really anxious to have us in here. The red arrow that you see is one of the ponds that they wanted us to restore. And if you look on the bottom of the picture, you'll see some green areas. That's a riparian area. That's actually the McCollum River, which is one of the major salmon rivers in California. The last 3 years in California, we have not had an active salmon fishery, and this is the first year that it's coming back. And there's a lot of interest in looking at what's going on in the riparian habitat, the macroinvertebrates, and that's going to be our plan for next year, to getting into this river a little bit east of here. So our main project, again, relates to changes in climate patterns. How do they affect plant communities? Do they have an effect on macroinvertebrates? And that's an issue that we're going to be looking at. We weren't able to so much this year. We're going to be looking at that more closely next year. But being in a very agricultural area, the changes in climates, how they're affecting blooming and bud burst, was a really good scientific question and was very enlightening for my kids, both my group that's in the field, and I have another group that's actually in the lab doing that, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. The protocols we're interested in, this is us at one of our sites, GPS, tree height and diameter, green up, green down. The normalized vegetative index is part of another group that I'm working with. While not a globe protocol, it's very interesting to use in a geospatial interest. And again, like I said before, both the San Joaquin and the McCollum rivers right now are very swift and have been all year, and I really didn't feel like putting a kid in there and have them go down very quickly downstream, and I'd have to go get them. So we're going to kind of wait until the next year to do that. However, we still have some time left on our current project, so I may be able to get some data out of that. And of course, since we're next to water, we're doing the hydrology protocols. So far, like I said, we started late due to the loss of our original site. We have found so far that Globe is a great partner with our habitat restoration work. This group, Center for Land-Based Learning, has been very good at providing us buses and mentors, and we've wanted to add more of a scientific angle to it beyond bringing back native vegetation, et cetera, and Globe seems to be a really good partner for that, and we want to continue with that. This year, I have about 2 more days that I'm going to be able to have the kids out in the field. The site is about 30 miles north of us. That's my main group that I'll have out there. I have a small group, what I call my grad students, who come with me on weekends, and we have Fridays where I don't have classes, so I can take kids out in the fields those days, and they'll come along and do some more work with me up there. And then Vino Farms has another site up on the McCollum River that's going to be part of our restoration site next year, and that's on a more gravelly bottom. And real interested in seeing what the invertebrates will look like there next year. And we've already kind of been scoping it out and real anxious to get started on that, but that won't be until the fall. And this is my crew. Notice that this is not part of a regular class. All of these kids are volunteers who've decided to do this as their extracurricular activity. I tried doing this before as a class and didn't work as well, and all these kids are really, really engaged and really into environmental work. Several of the kids in here have been accepted to college, or seniors. They've and most of the ones that have been accepted to college are actually in environmental fields. The 2 guys in the middle who are holding up the cake, one of which is the manager of the ranch. He's on the left, Scott Storm, and then on the right is a member from East Bay Municipal Utilities Districts, which manages the watershed, and is very excited to work with my kids, both in the habitat restoration and also in the research that we're doing. So for next year, we're going to start a little bit earlier because we have a little bit more definite plan, and we already have a site picked out. like to spend some time Skyping with Oklahoma, if that is all possible, and again, continue our partnership with both the Center for Land-Based Learning and Vino Farms. And I should mention that the Center for Land-Based Learning is just not them, but they get a whole bunch of volunteers who from different agencies. The young man down on the left is actually from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and he's taken a vacation day to come work with the kids, and they were just out collecting, and you can see there's the vineyards there in the back. So it's for us, it's been a really good combination. I'm looking forward to a little bit more. So that's it for me. Oh, one other quick thing. The land cover protocols that we're doing, I'm actually having a different class do. I have a class that's called Geospatial Technologies, and these guys sit at computers and look at a lot of satellite imagery, and that's a required class for us. So they're actually the ones who are doing the land cover protocol. So I'm able to spread this out across my curriculum, and that's been really kind of cool. So that's it for me. Can I answer any questions?
No question from Marcy.
Okay, yes, I teach 9-week unit on meteorology usually at the beginning of the year, but I have GT students. I'm also the GT coordinator, and those students are real good at collecting the data and things for me. And my 8th graders do the macroinvertebrate search counts every year, but I'm getting ready to start with my 6th grade, so I can do a 3-year program with them and cover more area and try to get more in depth with it than what I do with just my 8th grade. I tried to go to the river at the end of September, and now I'm waiting until April, as long as it's not flooded real bad for it to warm up. I try to do it about the same time every year so that it makes good science, and it all depends on the river. The river is really, really low this year, so like I said, it caused some issues with the counts. And yes, I do go during the school day. My superintendent is real good. He's a former science teacher, so he allows me to go whenever I need to.
The Center for Land-Based Learning actually pays for buses for us to go out during the school day, a certain number of days of the year. But like I said, my quote-unquote graduate students and I come out on Fridays. My school does not have classes on Fridays. Students are homeschooled that day, or they're in my room doing projects.
Okay, well, thank you to both of you.